Hey, what's up everyone? This is Ergo Josh and welcome to my YouTube channel once again. Today we are going to talk about the new M2 iPad Pro and Procreate 5.3. Earlier this year on October 26th, Apple released a new line of iPad Pros that had barely really any updates. Most people weren't really interested in them, but there was a feature that is incredible for us artists called Apple Pencil Hover. Now, unfortunately, upon release of the actual tablets, almost no apps supported the actual new feature, even though they showed Procreate demoing the feature when they premiered the iPads. Art Studio Pro added functionality pretty early on and some other apps, but now finally Procreate with Procreate 5.3 has added a really great functionality with the new hover feature. And today I just want to dive into all of that and show you every little thing that they've added and talk about why it's so important and valuable, and hopefully help you guys make a little bit of a purchasing decision, because I really don't think you should be buying almost any of the recent iPads that have come out if it's not one of these. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in and start talking about all of these new amazing hover features. So yes, Procreate 5.3 has been fully released. After you've updated, first you want to make sure everything is enabled. So go ahead and go to the Settings app in your iPad, then down to Apple Pencil, and then enable Show Effects when using Pencil under the Pencil Hover section. The next thing you're going to want to do is just pop over to Procreate, and then go to the wrench icon, and then go to Preferences, and then you can activate the brush cursor option. You're going to notice that we can now see a preview of the color and the outline of the brush as we paint and draw. This also includes the ability to see what it's going to look like before you erase something. Now, there are some new settings that you can use to adjust how the brush cursor actually looks under the Preferences section in the Advanced Cursor Settings option. If you choose brush specific, there are new settings in the brush engine that you can use to tweak how the cursor looks. I like to have it on globally to show the cursor at all times, because if I'm teaching something or if I'm using the tablet like Intuos or just a regular graphics tablet, any typical brand has the same thing, then I'm going to want to have the cursor on. Now, the next set of improvements come within the gallery section. In the gallery, you can now see previews of the time-lapse, animation, or 3D preview of the actual file just by hovering your pencil over each canvas for a little bit. One of the coolest things that Procreate did new though was to integrate new gestures into Procreate that work with Apple Pencil Hover. So now you can adjust the brush size and opacity anywhere on the canvas as long as hover is active. So this means that the tip of the pen is going to be within 12 millimeters of the surface of the iPad. As long as it's within there, the gestures will work. If it's too high, the gestures won't work, and they'll just go do what they default usually do. So the actual gestures you can do is to pinch with your thumb and index finger to adjust the size of your brush. In order to change the opacity, you just need to slide your finger left and right. Unfortunately, I find that a lot of the times I'm just trying to pinch and zoom to move the canvas around. I accidentally just change the brush size because the tip of the pencil is too close to the screen. This is probably why this feature needs to be enabled first. It's not actually on by default. In order to turn it on and off, go to Preferences again, but this time head down to the gesture controls. Here, you're going to see a new hover section where you can enable these two gestures. Although I don't use this often, there are some really cool updates to the color drop as well for those of you who do like lots of cell shading or just a lot of artwork that has a lot of very clean, precise line work. What you can do now is if you're hovering over the color circle on the top right, you can double tap, and that's going to activate unlimited color drop, or as they call it, the recolor feature. And then you can just keep tapping the screen in different areas that need color to fill them up. This is one of the features though that's new that doesn't rely on the new iPad Pro with the M2 chip, because now all you need to do is just drag from that color circle really quickly to fill like you normally would, but there's going to be a new button at the top of the screen that says continue filling, and you can just tap that and you're good to go. Now, I think the most pleasing update to the entire app are the new visual previews that they've provided across the entire UI. In most menus, you're going to notice that icons are just going to gently enlarge as you hover over them. This also happens with the canvases in the gallery, and it helps so that you know exactly what you're selecting. You can now also see a visual preview of the lasso select tool after you tap your first point, so this can help you speed things up as you're painting and make less mistakes. You're also now going to see a slight preview of where the size and opacity sliders are going to be when you hover over them. And this is pretty huge because the first 1 to 5% always have the biggest changes for me, and then it can take a few tries to get to the perfect size. But thanks to the previous updates where you can now save multiple brush sizes in there and just snap to them, this issue is pretty much completely fixed. The last preview is of the brush setting sliders and other just generic sliders within the app. Now, something that's really cool that has been included with this update is that it's just a lot faster. Procreate 5.3, they claim it's up to 3.5 times faster than before. I wonder if that was intentional to be reverse of Procreate 5.3? Probably not. This also just makes sense because that gallery hover feature where it previews the time lapses, that alone looks like it would take a ton of processing power if you have a lot of artwork in your gallery. Now, when it comes to that speed increase, I do notice it because Procreate 5.2 was really glitchy for the new M2 iPads, and it just feels super fast now and there's never any freezing. Now, unfortunately, there's a caveat to this new file compression system. This is a big warning. Files created in Procreate 5.3 will not be able to be opened in earlier versions of Procreate. So I'm talking about when you export or share a .procreate file. If I send this file to an iPad with an older version of Procreate, let's just say it's 5.2, it's not going to open. So before you update Procreate, I really recommend that you back up your files manually by dragging them into the Files app and then onto an external device. I also recommend doing this by exporting them as a Photoshop file to keep your layers intact, and that way you can be able to see what the files are on your main computer. Now, the good thing is that older Procreate files imported into 5.3 will just be automatically upgraded, so that's one good bit of good news. The last bit of bad news with this update is that Procreate is no longer supporting third-party styluses or styli other than the Logitech Crayon. I've never really played around much with the third-party styluses, but Procreate says that other devices are simply just not improving enough compared to the Apple Pencil, and Procreate will continue to move on and develop with those advancements. If you're thinking about upgrading to an iPad Pro, I just really recommend that you just go to this one. The only other one I could recommend is the 2018 model, but you might be a little bit, you might struggle a little bit to find one of those that's in a decent condition. So if you're in between the 2018 iPad Pro and this new 6th gen version, I really recommend that you don't buy any of the like 2020 or 2021 iPad Pros, even if you're seeing them for cheaper. Just save up until you can get this one because it's gonna last you a while, like a really long while. And that hover feature is just really nice, especially with the screen. It's just a beautiful experience to use. In another video, I want to talk about how this just makes it an incredible professional device to use and how that workflow, what that workflow looks like. I mean, with iPadOS 16, you can basically have the experience of using Procreate on desktop, and that's just amazing. And then I'll also talk about how my workflow has changed and share some of the tips and tricks because I might not even need to use a keyboard that much anymore with this thing. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a big deal? Have any of you used it already? I'd really love to know. And yeah, stay safe, have a happy holiday season, keep drawing, stay positive, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.